Sometimes the production of a movie will require actors to do something they might not be comfortable with, whether that's learning an incredibly difficult skill or even facing a deep-seated fear. Our big screen heroes might seem all cool and infallible, but they're still mere mortals, just like the rest of us. So with that in mind then, I'm Ellie with What Culture, here with 10 movies that forced actors to face their fears. Number 10. Ryan Reynolds' fear of flying in Green Lantern. There are many reasons why Ryan Reynolds probably regrets doing Green Lantern. The film was trounced by critics and has become such a laughingstock in the years since that Deadpool 2 even saw Reynolds joke about killing himself before he could sign on for the project. Green Lantern wasn't a total waste of time though. Not only did Reynolds meet his future wife Blake Lively while shooting the film, but the experience of starring in a superhero epic also allowed the sharp-tongued Canadian to overcome one of his biggest fears: flying. As Reynolds explained on the Today Show while promoting the film, "I'm a little afraid to fly. I've always had problems with aeroplanes. In the film, I'm up on high wires all the time. We were flying all over the place, sometimes it's 60 feet per second. It was really interesting and really terrifying at first. Having a fear of flying and yet signing up for a film where your character is a pilot who later gains the power of flight? That's a boss move right there." Number 9. Salma Hayek's fear of snakes in From Dusk Till Dawn. Though you'd expect the filmmakers and actors to be on the same page before agreeing to shoot a movie together, that isn't always the case. Just ask Salma Hayek, who agreed to star in Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez's horror thriller From Dusk Till Dawn, only to be thrown one hell of a curveball when the time came to shoot her famous dance scene. That curveball? An enormous snake. "I have a phobia," Hayek recalled in a chat with E! News. "It was not in the script. I agreed to the movie, and then Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino decided that the dance is with the snake on me." Understandably, she then refused to do the scene, but when Rodriguez and Tarantino indicated they'd be willing to replace her, Hayek opted to conquer her fear rather than walk away. "Frankly, I really needed to pay the rent," she added. Number 8. Daniel Craig's fear of heights in Casino Royale. It's easy to forget these days, but back in the mid-2000s there was a lot of backlash over the casting of Daniel Craig as the next James Bond. As casting director Devi McWilliams recalled in a recent chat with Entertainment Weekly, "It was unbelievably negative, I have to say. The press response was awful and I felt so sorry for him. In the end, Craig proved the doubters wrong when the brilliant Casino Royale released in November 2006. But it wasn't just the press that the blue-eyed Brit had to overcome in the early days of his 007 journey. It was his own personal fears. More specifically, Craig's fear of heights reared its head when he was told that he would have to climb a 200-foot-tall crane for the movie's opening parkour sequence. "It was borderline fun and fear," said the actor, "but there was no time for my fear of heights. You just have to do it." And though Craig obviously didn't do every stunt in this scene, he clearly did enough to make himself rather terrified. Number 7. Chris Evans' fear of taking on a life-changing role in Captain America: The First Avenger. Chris Evans may be a kick-ass superhero on the big screen, but he has just as much anxiety and stress in his life as anyone else. In fact, it was these mental struggles that nearly caused him to pass on the role of a lifetime, with the actor initially refusing to don the stars and stripes of Captain America because, in his own words, "It was the thing that I was most scared of." While promoting Captain America: The First Avenger back in 2011, Evans described how he was initially quite fearful of taking on the part, mainly because he was hesitant to sign his soul away to a 6-picture deal, but also because he didn't want all the fame and attention that would come with being a gigantic movie star. He said, "I chose to do this movie because it was the thing that I think I was the most scared of. I was scared because initially it was 9 pictures, then it came down to 6 movies. Even 6 movies, that's 10 years, dude. My freedom is gone if I do this movie." It clearly worked out for the best though, and in recent years Evans has talked about how pushing through that fear and taking the role was one of the best decisions he ever made. Number 6. Jennifer Aniston's fear of going underwater in Cake. Due to her career-defining role in 90s sitcom Friends, we don't tend to think of Jennifer Aniston as a dramatic actress. However, in 2014, she was racking up award nominations all over the place for her work in indie flick Cake, where she plays a woman suffering from chronic pain after surviving a car accident that killed her son. It was a tough role to take on in general, but Aniston found one particular aspect of the shoot far more challenging than the rest. In a chat with E! News, she described how a select few scenes in which her character undergoes water therapy were incredibly difficult for her to do, all because of a childhood incident that led to her developing a fear of being submerged. She said, "I was a kid and I was riding this tricycle around a swimming pool, and I drove my tricycle into the swimming pool and I didn't let go, and my brother tried to help me, so I can't go underwater and no one will believe me. I honestly can't." Aniston's fear was so tricky to overcome that it reportedly took around 30 takes to get a single pool shot done right. In the end, though, she received a ton of critical acclaim for her performance, so her bravery paid off. Number 5. Ethan Hawke's fear of scary movies in Sinister. Ethan Hawke and director Scott Derrickson are currently in theatres with their critically acclaimed horror flick The Black Phone. But this isn't the first time they've collaborated to create a spooktacular time at the movies. In 2012, their first horror film together, Sinister, was also well received by critics, with praise going to its strong performances, shocking finale, and creepy atmosphere. It's an effective movie, no doubt, and it was the thought of being involved with something so scary that nearly made Hawke pass on the role entirely. "For years, I never wanted to make one of these movies," he said while promoting the film. "It's because I thought it would be absolutely terrifying to make it." Producer Jason Blum had actually been trying to get Hawke to do a horror movie since Paranormal Activity in 2007, but the actor always refused, simply because he thought the experience would be too traumatic. In the end, though, Hawke discovered that making horror movies was surprisingly fun. He went on to make The Purge in 2013, and with The Black Phone's success, there will undoubtedly be more big screen scares in his future. Number 4. Robert Pattinson's fear of horses in Water for Elephants. Robert Pattinson was last seen as the embodiment of bad guys' fear in Matt Reeves' The Batman, but that doesn't mean the actor is a fearless badass in reality. In fact, our current Dark Knight has a fear that some might think is a tad unusual. He's scared of horses. Pattinson was forced to confront this fear while making his 2011 romantic drama Water for Elephants, in which he stars as a promising veterinary student who ends up getting a job at the circus. This required him to interact with animals like elephants and horses, and though the filmmakers didn't force him to put his jockeying skills to the test, he did have an encounter with a horse that left him rather shaken. He said, "I had to get knocked down by a horse. That was terrifying. It was just one split second, but it was a fully grown stallion. I'm kind of relatively scared of horses as well." Pattinson also revealed that one of his elephant co-stars picked him up using its mouth, so it doesn't really seem like the guy had the best of luck around animals. Number 3. Emma Watson's fear of singing in Beauty and the Beast. We all have those moments where we think that we're pretty good at singing. In the shower, most of us can belt out a tune like nobody's watching, which hopefully they aren't. And who doesn't feel like a pop star after a bit of drunken karaoke? Emma Watson is under no such illusions, however, with the actress not being confident that she had the vocal chops to star as Belle in Disney's live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast. She described the prospect of singing on such a grand stage as terrifying, because it was something she'd never attempted before. There's no doubt that starring as an iconic Disney character in a $200 million blockbuster was a daunting hill to climb, but the experience of making Beauty and the Beast actually helped Watson combat her fear. She said, "I was afraid to sing in front of 3 people, and by the end I was singing live in front of 300. She also received praise for her performance, and the film grossed over $1 billion to boot, so not really a bad result. Number 2. Ryan Reynolds' claustrophobia in Buried. A year before he battled his fear of flying in Green Lantern, Ryan Reynolds was conquering another much more potent personal demon during the production of his 2010 thriller Buried. Claustrophobia. In the movie, Reynolds plays Paul Conroy, a truck driver working in Iraq who wakes up to discover that he's been buried alive. As you'd expect, much of the film was shot with Reynolds lying in an actual coffin, and this led to the actor suffering from anxiety, insomnia, and complete and utter panic for the duration of filming. "I'd go home and I'd pace until sunup like a vampire and then climb into a coffin to film," he said. "I was losing my mind. I hadn't slept in days, weeks." Reynolds also suffered from frequent panic attacks due to being enclosed in such a tight space for hours on end. Even worse, director Rodrigo Cortés has mentioned that one of the coffins used during filming was specially reinforced so that Reynolds could feel the pressure of all the sand piling on top of him. All things considered, it's really no surprise that he was freaking out on a regular basis. Number 1. Christian Bale's fear of the Batsuit in Batman Begins. Going back and watching Batman Begins, it's clear as day that the Batsuit wasn't very comfortable for Christian Bale to wear. For starters, the design of the cowl meant that he couldn't simply turn his head. He had to turn his entire upper body if he wanted to look in a different direction. And then there's the fact that being bolted into a sweaty rubber suit for hours at a time doesn't sound like the most enjoyable of experiences. The actor himself would agree with that, but you might be surprised to learn just how uncomfortable the suit truly was. Bale hated it to the point of fear and even came close to throwing in the towel and asking the filmmakers to recast the role. "I felt like they should recast," Bale recalled while promoting 2012's The Dark Knight Rises. "I really did, because it was so claustrophobic that I didn't feel like I could breathe. I felt they've made a mistake and I can't do this." Fortunately, Bale developed a method to overcome this anxiety and would ask the crew to leave him alone for 15 or 20 minutes while he performed some breathing exercises. The success of Batman Begins would then lead to one of the greatest movie sequels ever made, where Bale was granted the suit upgrade he was clearly in need of. And that concludes our list. If you can think of any that we missed, then do let us know in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe and tap that notification bell. Also, head over to Twitter and follow us there. And I can be found across various social medias just by searching Ellie Littlechild. I've been Ellie with What Culture. I hope you have a magical day, and I'll see you real soon.